Have you ever felt that as a Muslim woman, there are not enough Islamic programs out there dedicated to just you? Have you ever had questions run through your mind about your role as a Muslim woman, your rights and responsibilities, or just general matters? Just Us Women is a program dedicated to you, the Muslim woman. Islam Life Radio has tailored Just Us Women to meet the needs of our Muslim sisters in order for them to gain authentic knowledge. Our host and teacher for this program, Ummu Maahir Ismaa'eel, will deliver and expand your minds on various topics related to women's fiqh, motivational talks, and how to be among the best women to earn Allah Azza wa Jal's pleasure in this life and the next, insha'Allah. So be sure to join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with Just Us Women, brought to you by IslamLifeRadio.com.
Provocative. Education coming full circle. From the author of Muhammad's Role in Islam, 50 Concepts Brought by Muhammad, Holy Wars, Crusades, Jihad, Biography and Mission of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, is the host and author Jalal Abu al-Rub. Provocative challenges false perceptions and misconceptions about Islam, the Quran, Muhammad, and Islamic law. Not intimidated and unafraid to answer all questions about Islam according to Allah's book and Islam's messenger. Tune in to listen and or engage the host with hopes, doubts, criticism, or fears as we bring your Islamic education full circle by spreading the truth of what Allah has ordained on His creation. Provocative. Education coming full circle.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Are you experiencing a difficult situation? Going through stress, anxiety, confusion, or even depression? Perhaps something's troubling you and you don't know who to ask and where. Maybe you've done a sin and you don't know how to deal with it to make everything better and redeem yourself. You might even be wanting to consider marriage and have someone in mind, but don't know how to take the matter forward in a halal way. Are you looking for advice and guidance, which is also Islamically sound and authentic? If so, then your prayers have been answered. Islam Life Radio is now offering a free, confidential, anonymous, impartial, and non-judgmental counseling service based on the Quran and authentic Sunnah. Email us now at counseling@islamliferadio.com.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala sahbihi wa sallam. Welcome back, sisters. This is our third part to the segment of rulings pertaining to Muslim women by Shaykh Dr. Saleh Fawzan al-Fawzan. Today we look at Chapter 4, Laws Pertaining to Dressing and Hijab. A description of the Islamic dress of a woman. Now the Shaykh outlines five matters regarding the Islamic dress of a woman. And number 1, it is obligatory for the dress of a woman to be sufficiently loose and wide to cover her whole body from the sight of men who are not close relatives to her, meaning those to whom she could get married according to the Sharia. She should not expose to her mahrams, her male relatives whom she is not allowed to marry, except those parts of her body that are normally exposed according to custom, her face, hands, and feet. Number 2, the clothes must conceal the shape of her body and not be transparent so that the color and details of her body are exposed. Number 3, the clothes must be loose-fitting and must not cling to her limbs. In Sahih Muslim, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are two types of the denizens of hell whom I have not seen. Women who are dressed but appear to be naked, who would be inclined, meaning to evil, and make others inclined towards it. Their heads would be like the humps of the bukht, meaning the healthy fat camel, inclined to one side, or with their hair in a single bun. They would not enter paradise, and they would not smell its odor. And men with whips, like the tails of bulls, with which they beat the servants of Allah. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah stated in Majmu' al-Fatawa regarding his statement, who would be dressed but appear to be naked, means that she would wear clothes that would not conceal her. For example, a woman who wears a thin robe which reveals the lines of her body, such as her forearms and buttocks, etc., instead of the clothing of a woman, should cover her totally and not reveal her body or her proportions by virtue of its being thick and loose fitting. Number 4, the woman must not resemble men. Again, the woman must not resemble men in her dress. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam cursed the women who resemble men and cursed the men who resemble women. The woman will resemble men in her dress by wearing what is specifically recognized as men's clothes in the society in which she lives. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah said in Majmu' al-Fatawa, so the distinguishing factor between men's clothes and women's goes back to what is appropriate for men and what is appropriate for women. This is defined by what men have been ordered to wear and by what women have been ordered to wear. As for women, they have been ordered to cover themselves and wear hijab and not expose themselves and make a dazzling display of their beauty. Because of this, it is not permissible for a woman to raise her voice to pronounce the adhan or talbiyah. She is not allowed to ascend Safa or Marwa. She does not disrobe herself of her undergarments and ihram the way that men do. Men have been ordered to expose their heads in ihram and not wear clothes that are designed to fit the shape of the body. For example, a man should not wear a shirt, trousers, jacket, or leather socks. And as for a woman, she has not been prohibited from wearing any type of clothes, as she has been ordered to cover and wear hijab, and therefore she could not be ordered to do the opposite. However, she is not permitted to cover her face or wear gloves, because these two types of clothing are designed to fit the shape of the body, and she has no need of them. And the Shaykh went on to say, and then he mentioned that she should cover her face with something other than the niqab in the presence of men. And then he went on to state finally, and again it's regarding Ibn Taymiyyah, therefore, if it is apparent that there must be a distinction between men's clothing and women's clothing, which differentiates men from women, and that the clothes of women must be sufficient to cover them, and to the extent that this distinction becomes clear, then the basic ruling regarding this area becomes clear, and it becomes apparent that if certain types of clothes are normally worn by men, then a woman is prohibited from wearing them. And Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah went on to say, and if a particular type of cloth is insufficient in covering the woman and also resembles the clothing of men, she is prohibited from wearing it based on both counts of prohibition, and Allah knows best. Number 5, the woman's clothing must not be attractive to the extent that it attracts gazes when she goes outside, so that she avoids becoming exhibitionist. So my comment here, sisters, in fact, this going outside, attracting attention like this is known as tabarruj, and that is when a woman adorns herself and makes herself attractive in front of non-mahram men. Now the Shaykh now begins a discussion on the hijab. The meaning of the term hijab is that a woman conceals her body from the sight of men who are not mahram to her, as Allah has stated as it is interpreted. And they should not display their adornments except what is apparent thereof, illa ma dhahara minha, apparent thereof. And they should draw their veils, excuse me, and they should draw their veils over their bosoms and not display their adornment except to their husbands or their fathers or their husbands' fathers or their sons or their husbands' sons or their brothers. Now this is found in Surah An-Nur, which is chapter 24, verse 31. The Shaykh said that he also said, meaning Allah, also stated, as it is interpreted in Surah Al-Ahzab, and when you ask, meaning the Prophet's wives, for anything you want, then ask them from behind a screen. Ask them from behind a screen. Many men, rawa'i hijab, from behind a screen. The meaning of hijab in this verse is any object that conceals a woman, such as a wall, a door, or clothes. The verse, even though it was revealed concerning the wives of the Prophet, alayhi salam, its ruling generally encompasses all Muslim women. This is because the wisdom behind the ruling is specified in Allah's statement when He says in Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 53, that makes for greater purity for your hearts and theirs. Again, that makes for greater purity for your hearts and theirs. The Shaykh went on to say, this wisdom is general among all men and women. Therefore, the generality of the wisdom also indicates the general applicability of the ruling. As Allah says, as it is interpreted, O Prophet, tell your wives and your daughters and the women of the believers to draw their cloaks, meaning their veils, all over their bodies. This is found in Al-Ahzab, which is chapter 33, verse 59. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah stated in Majmu' al-Fatawa that jilbab is a cover, and Ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu and others called it irda, and the common people, meaning of today, call it izar. It is large and covers a woman's head and the rest of her body. Abu Ubaidah, and others stated that it should hang from the top of her head, the only thing visible being her eyes. The niqab is a similar type of clothing. The Shaykh wanted to say, among the proof contained in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which indicate the obligation upon the woman to cover her face in front of strangers, like those she could conceivably marry, like her male cousins, is the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, who said, riders used to pass by us when we accompanied the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam while we were in the state of ihram. If they came close to us, we would lower the jilbab from our heads onto our faces. When they passed us, we will uncover our faces. We will uncover, meaning our faces. And this was narrated by Ali Imam Ahmed, Abu Dawood, and Ibn Majah. The Shaykh, meaning Shaykh Fawzan, went on to say, there is a lot of evidence to prove the obligation on the woman to cover her face while in the presence of strangers in the Quran and the Sunnah. I refer the Muslim sister to the treatise regarding hijab, clothing, and prayer by Ibn Taymiyyah, and the treatise on hijab by Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Abdullah ibn Baz, and the book Risalat As-Saram al-Mashhur ala al-Muftunina bi Sufur by Shaykh Hamoud ibn Abdullah Tawajiri, and Risalat al-Hijab by Shaykh Muhammad ibn Saleh al-Uthaymeen. These treaties contain ample information concerning this point. The Muslim sister should be aware that those scholars who rule that it is permissible for her to show her face, in addition to the fact that their conclusion is weak, have stipulated the condition that there should not be any fitna, and in this case fitna meaning temptation caused by uncovering her face. Fitna is unavoidable, particularly in these times when men and women are less religious and there is little modesty, while at the same time the promoters of fitna have increased and women have developed different cosmetics that they apply to their faces, causing fitna. Therefore, the Shaykh said, the Muslim sisters should be warned about this and should adhere to the hijab, which by the will of Allah will protect her from fitna. None of the recognized Muslim scholars of the past or present has permitted these corrupted women, what these corrupted women have fallen into. Some women are hypocritical in their usage of the hijab. If they are in a society that adheres to the wearing of hijab, they wear it. And if they are in a society that does not adhere to the wearing of the hijab, they do not. Some of them wear hijab in open public places, whereas if they enter a shop, a hospital, or they are speaking to a jeweler or a woman's tailor, they uncover their faces and arms as if they are with their husband or one of her mahrams. Now again, this Shaykh is talking about where he lives, and this is Saudi. So we're talking about the women are going to the jewelers in the souk, in the marketplace, or most of the tailors are males, by the way. When he says a woman's tailor, most of the tailors in Saudi are men who sew the clothes. So this is what he's talking about, that when they're with these particular men or in these places, then they uncover their faces, which is inappropriate. He wanted to say, the women who do this must fear Allah. We have witnessed some women, when coming back from foreign countries, do not wear hijab until the plane lands at one of the airports of this country, meaning Saudi Arabia. He wanted to say, it is as if the hijab has become a local custom and not a religious duty. So Shaykh Fawzan wanted to say the Muslim sister should be aware that the hijab protects her from evil glances emanating from those who have a sickness in their hearts and the dogs among mankind. The hijab also protects her from evil desires, so she should adhere and cling to the hijab and not be persuaded or tempted by media that opposes the hijab or belittles its significance, as those who spread this media only desire evil for her, as Allah has stated in An-Nisa verse 27. But they wish of those who follow their lust is that you should be deviated away, meaning from the right path, far, far away. So we want to look at a couple of things here, and these are my comments. One, the Shaykh is talking about hijab here, and I want to remind our sisters that hijab, as he said, could be a wall, okay? It could be any covering, full covering of the female, any full covering of the female. So again, he mentioned that it could be a wall, or it could be clothing, a door even, any object that conceals her completely. So this, sisters, points to the fact that hijab is not a simple scarf on the head, a little pullover scarf or something that they wrap around. This would be a khimar or a tarha, depending upon which wrap it is or how it's being used. But again, it's only something that's covering the head, and that is not hijab. That should not be considered hijab at all. So this little scarf on the head and tight jeans and high heels and other cute outfits that are being said that are hijab, and tempting young Muslim women to go out into the streets like this. This is inappropriate. Please be careful. This is not to be judgmental upon anyone, but this is only an advice to our young sisters who could easily be persuaded by following the crowd, by following the example of some young women who are on Instagram and posing, and they're getting tons of likes because they're inappropriately dressed. This is not a trap we want our young women to fall into. And also he mentioned that some women are hypocritical. He said some women are hypocritical in their usage of the hijab, And if they are in a society that adheres to wearing the hijab, they wear it. And if they are in a society that does not adhere to wearing the hijab, they do not. So, this is particularly pertaining to the Muslim women of course, of the Muslim world he's talking about. But I want to address us in the West, because this also happens amongst us in the West when we wear hijab around certain people and certain groups and in certain places like masajid, where the women cover their faces and so forth, and masajid where we know that those women might wear black. So I just wanted to make that aware, because it's easy to follow the crowd. It's very easy to follow the crowd, especially for the new young Muslimah. So there are some women who put on hijab a certain color, black in particular, and wear niqab and so forth, when they are attending certain masajid where the Salafiyat in that masjid or this masjid are wearing black and wearing niqab and so forth. However, when they are in a different place, in a different masjid or around a different group of people, then they're not covering their faces or they're not wearing black. And of course, wearing the black is perfection, and it's not something that's obligatory. But the Sahabiyat chose the color of black, and therefore the Salafiyat and those who want to be like the Sahabiyat, then they wear the color black out of the perfection of hijab. So we want to be careful of that, presenting one face in front of one group of people and then another face in amongst another group of people, because as the Shaykh said, this is a kind of hypocrisy. And also, just to remember that hijab is not just the clothing, but hijab is all of the female. It dictates her even her modest behavior. That hijab even dictates behavior, so in that the woman will lower her voice in public and so forth, because of this hijab that she is wearing over herself, in terms of covering herself. So just wanted to make that clear, that hijab again is not just one scarf on top of the head, but it is the total covering of the Muslim woman. And as the Shaykh mentioned, one more comment here is that it is something that is loose, that the outer garment is in fact a loose garment. So now I do want to remind our sisters in the West who are wearing in the winter time, and we're about to proceed into the winter at this point that I am making this talk, then particularly even in the winter, especially in the winter rather, when we're wearing jackets and sweaters and empire jackets, I really want to make us aware that again the outer garment or the jilbab is something that is wide and flowing. And where you might have a general idea of how wide her shoulders are because of the way it falls, when a sister is wearing proper hijab, we should not see the shape of her arms. We shouldn't be able to see the shape of her arms and have an idea of how big her arms are. They really should be concealed. And so when wearing these small jackets, you're now outlining the size of the arms. And then even worse, these jackets come right at the waist many times, especially the empire. And there are a group of women who I've seen a group of women who they love this jean empire jacket, so much so that it's become a pattern amongst a certain group of women to have on a jean empire jacket. And I want to warn our sisters about, first of all, being careful of adapting dress in a total group other than the hijab itself. So anything outside of that lumps you into a group, you want to be careful of, because you may be falling into hizbiyah. So this everybody wearing this jean empire jacket that is too tight for them, by the way. You can see their arms, you can see their midriff, and then it stops right at the waist, so that the buttocks is like blown up, and all you see from behind her is her buttocks. So we want to be careful of that. Any empire jacket and any sweater and any garment that will make the hijab, it will in fact invalidate, because it's not doing what it was meant to do. So be careful in the wintertime in particular. If you want to wear, of course we might want to be warm, so it's best to get the what you call the overhead or off the head abaya, which is no more than the true sunnah, and that is the garment that comes from the head all the way down, or something else that flows down past the buttocks into the knee area, and it is very wide. And then what you could do is you put your jacket underneath of it, you put your sweaters underneath of it, and then the outer garment now is doing what it's supposed to do, acting as an outer garment, covering over every thing else. So I just wanted to make those notes for our sisters to please be careful, and especially for our young sisters who are coming into this deen and you're looking to the example of other women. Get the description of what is proper from the evidences themselves, and not from what you see people doing. Because unfortunately a lot of women are not wearing proper hijab in this day and time, and of course none of us are perfect. But one more time, all of us should be taking this deen from its evidences and not from the people, because we the people are in fact fallible. We make mistakes. Only Allah is infallible. Only Allah is the perfect. But we humans, we make mistakes. So rely upon the evidences, and this is what is better and safe. Now the Shaykh moves into chapter 5, which is the laws pertaining to the woman regarding her salah. Again, the laws regarding salah. Laws pertaining to the woman regarding her salah. Shaykh Fawzan started out by saying, it is obligatory on the Muslim woman to observe her salah, meaning her regular prayers, her 5 daily prayers, at the appointed time, fulfilling all its conditions, fundamental actions, and obligatory practices. Allah has said to the mothers of the believers, may Allah be pleased with them all, and that is the wives of the Prophet, when Allah stated in Surah Al-Ahzab in verse 33, he said, and establish the salah, meaning the regular prayer, and give the zakah, and obey Allah and his messenger. The Shaykh commented, this order applies to Muslim women in general. Salah is the second pillar of Islam and is the basis and the foundation of Islam. To leave the salah is an act of disbelief that takes a person out of Islam, which is apostasy. There is no status of religion or Islam for one who does not pray. Again, he said, this is Shaykh Fawzan talking, there is no status of religion or Islam for one who does not pray, be he a man or a woman. To delay the prayer without a legitimate reason is a way of neglecting the prayer. As Allah states in Surah Maryam, verse 59 and 60, as it is interpreted, but after them there follow a posterity who neglected prayers and followed lust. Soon then will they be thrown in hell. In his tafsir, meaning the explanation of the Quran, Ibn Kathir rahimahullah quoted from a number of commentators of the Quran that the meaning of neglecting the salah is to miss their appointed times by praying after the appointed times have expired. And the meaning of the word or the term al-ghay, which comes in the verse as ghayyan, which they will meet, is a great loss. So again, he said the meaning of the term al-ghay, which they will meet, is a great loss. This word has also been said to mean the name of a ravine in hell. The Shaykh wanted to say, women also have certain rulings which are specific to them concerning their prayer, which are as follows. Now the Shaykh outlines 6 of these rulings. Number 1, the women do not have to announce the adhan or the iqama The reason for this is that the adhan and the iqama were decreed for those for whom raising the voice was permissible. And this does not include women. Therefore, it is not permissible for the woman to raise her voice and announce the adhan or the iqama. In Al-Mughni, he said, we find the quote, "We are not aware of any disagreement regarding this point." One more time. In Al-Mughni, we are not aware of any disagreement regarding this point. So I want to just add something here, sisters. And if we are not to raise our voice to call the adhan or the iqama, then we should be careful, and particularly my sisters in the West, be careful of raising the voice in the street, yelling out people's names and so forth, and all these kinds of things. These behaviors were before we embraced Islam. These are the behaviors of Jahiliyyah. And even then, these are not the behavior of respectable women. For women to be out in the streets and yelling down to people down the corner and all such things. So how much more for the believing woman who has now adapted a lifestyle of modesty? If we are not to raise the voice to call the adhan or the iqama, let's be careful of raising our voice for other things as well, and particularly in the streets. Number 2, the woman's entire body must be covered during the prayer except for her face. Although there is a long-standing disagreement among the scholars regarding her palms and feet, this applies when she is in the company of those who are related to her in a way that prohibits marriage between them, meaning the mahrams, for example, her father, uncle, or brother. If she is in a place where other men would see her, then she must cover herself fully, as she would cover herself outside of the prayer. So again, if she is in a place where other men would see her, then she must cover herself fully, as she would cover herself outside of the prayer. Therefore, she must cover her head, her neck, and the rest of her body down to the level of her feet. The Prophet ﷺ said, the salah of a woman who has reached the age of menstruation will not be accepted unless she is wearing a khimar. Narrated by the 5 scholars. The khimar covers the head and the neck. Salama radiallahu anha narrated that she asked the Prophet alayhi salam, should the woman pray if she is wearing only a chemise and a khimar without wearing an izar, similar to a skirt? He said, yes, if the chemise or the tunic is long and flows down to cover the top of her feet. Again, if the tunic is long and flows down to cover the top of her feet. This was reported by Abu Dawood, and the scholars asserted that this hadith is mawquf, meaning it is actually a statement of Salama. May Allah be pleased with her, and not that of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So these 2 hadith indicate that it is obligatory for her to cover her head, her neck, as in the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha and the hadith of Salama radiallahu anha, indicates that she must also cover the rest of her body down to the top of her feet. By the consensus of the scholars, it is permissible for her to uncover her face where no strangers will see her. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah stated in Majmu' al-Fatawa, if the woman prays on her own, she is ordered to wear the khimar, and outside salah, it is permissible to uncover her head inside her house. One of the rights of Allah is that a person dresses decently, and therefore it is not permissible to perform tawaf of the Kaaba unclothed, even alone at night, or pray while being unclothed, even when they are alone. And also, so there is no link between the obligation of covering oneself in salah and being seen by others in any way. It is stated in Al-Mughni, as for the rest of the body of a free woman, it is obligatory to cover it during salah. If a part of her body becomes uncovered during the salah, then the salah becomes invalid unless the uncovered part is very small. This is the position of Malik, Auza'i, and Shafi'i. Ruling number 4. Mentioned in Al-Mughni, a woman should gather herself together, meaning her arms and legs, when she is in ruku', bowing, and sujood, prostration, instead of stretching herself out, and she should sit cross-legged or gather her legs together and set them on her right side instead of sitting with her legs underneath of her or with one tucked under the other as the men do when they pray, as the former as the former positions are less revealing. Imam al-Nawawi stated in Al-Majmu', Shafi'i stated in Al-Mukhtasar, there is no difference between men and women in the actions of the prayer, except that it is preferred that a woman gathers herself together and that she presses her thighs against her stomach when she makes sujood, as this is the best way to cover her body shape, and I prefer for her to do this while in ruku'ah and also in other parts of the salah. Ruling number 4. Congregational prayers for women led by one of them is an issue about which there is disagreement between the scholars. Some permit it and others do not, although the majority say that there is nothing wrong with it. As the Prophet ﷺ once ordered Waraka, may Allah be pleased with her, to lead the members of her household in prayer. Narrated by Abu Dawood, and Ibn Khuzaymah authenticated this hadith. Some scholars say that this action is mustahab or preferred based on this hadith, while others regard it as makruh, meaning disliked, while others allow it in voluntary prayers but not in obligatory prayers. I feel that the correct opinion is that it is mustahab. For extra details regarding this issue, see Al-Mughni. A woman should only recite loudly when there are no men present who could legally marry her. Ruling number 5. It is permissible for the women to leave their homes and go and pray in the masjid as the men do, although it is better for them to pray in their houses. Muslim reported in his Sahih, do not forbid the female servants of Allah from the houses of Allah. He also said, do not prevent the women from praying in the masajid, but their houses are better for them. Reported by Ahmed and Abu Dawood. So it is better for the women to remain in their homes and pray because it is more concealing. If the woman does leave her house to pray in the masjid, then it is imperative that she complies with the following. First, she should be fully dressed and covered with a hijab. Aisha, radiallahu anha, said, the women used to pray with the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salam, then they would leave wrapped up in their clothes, unidentifiable because of the darkness of the dawn, and this hadith was agreed upon. Next, she should not wear perfume. This is proven by the statement of the Prophet alayhi salam, do not forbid the female servants of Allah from going to the masajid of Allah, and they should go out unperfumed. Reported by Ahmed, Abu Dawood. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam said, any woman who has applied perfume must not attend the Isha prayer with us. Reported by Muslim, Abu Dawood, and Nasa'i. In the hadith reported by Muslim from Zainab, the wife of Ibn Mas'ud, we find, if any of you, meaning women, comes to the masjid, then do not apply perfume. Imam Shawkani said in An-Nil al-Awtar, this hadith proves that it is permissible for women to go to the masajid as long as it does not involve fitna or flirtation or involve things that cause fitna, such as applying perfume. He also said these hadith prove that it is permissible for women to go to the masajid as long as when going they do not wear things which cause fitna, such as perfume, jewelry, or any form of adornment. So let's pay attention to that. He said, again, as long as they do not wear things that cause fitna, such as perfume or jewelry or any form of adornment. So we want to be careful of that. And then the Shaykh said, she should not go outside dressed provocatively wearing beautiful clothes or jewelry. The mother of the believers, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, said, if the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salam, had seen what we see happening among the women, he would have forbidden them from going out to the masjid in the same way that the children of Israel forbade their women. And this hadith is agreed upon. Imam Shawkani stated in Nail al-Awtar, commenting on Aisha's statement, may Allah be pleased with her, if he had seen what we see. Again, the statement, if he had seen what we see. Meaning the wearing of fine clothes, perfume, adornment, and the display of beauty. Instead, during the Prophet's time, may Allah be pleased with him, the women used to go out wearing clothes wrapped around their bodies, and that means covered, not wrapped tight. When they say wrap, that's not think the way we Westerners think. It means that they were covered with these clothes. So again, wearing clothes around about their bodies, thick cloaks and veils. And one more time, thick cloaks and veils. Imam Ibn al-Jawzi stated in Kitab Ahkam an-Nisa, it is appropriate that a woman be warned from going out whatever the circumstances, even if she feels safe, as the people may not be safe from her. If it becomes absolutely necessary for her to go out, she must do so only with the permission of her husband and with a decent appearance, and she must stay clear of busy streets and markets, taking care that her voice is not heard. She must walk along the side of the street and not in the middle. As Zuri says, regarding the action of the Prophet alayhi salam, of delaying his leaving his praying place after prayer, in our opinion, the action of the Prophet alayhi salam of remaining in his praying place a little after the salam, and Allah knows best, is in order that women are able to depart from the masjid, meaning before the men start leaving. And this was narrated by Bukhari, and we can also see Shar al-Kabir ala al-Muqni. Imam Shawkani stated in Nil al-Awtar, the hadith proves that it is mustahab for the imam to take into account the state of the people who pray behind him, and to take precautions to avoid what might lead to sin, and to avoid situations which might lead to suspicions. And this also shows the unacceptability of free mixing between men and women in the streets, let alone the houses. Imam Nawawi stated in Al-Majmu'ah, women differ from men with regard to congregational prayer in several ways. First, it is not as obligatory upon women to attend as it is upon men. If a woman leads other women in prayer, she who leads the prayer does not stand in front of those who pray with her. Instead, she stands in the middle. It is enough for a single woman to pray behind a single man and not by his side, which is different from the situation for men. So again, women don't pray by the side of a man, they pray behind him. If they pray in rows behind men, then the last row of women is better than the first row of women. So again, this is in a congregation where the men and the women are together in the same spot. So as it was during the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there was no partitions at that time. The women just formed rows back behind the men. So naturally, and this is Ummu Maahir talking here, and so naturally the last row is far better than the first row because the first row is closer to the men. So the back row is better for the women. And the Shaykh concluded by saying, from what has preceded, the prohibition of mixing between men and women is clear. The prohibition of mixing between men and women is clear. So just one more note on that before I move to another comment. This shows how serious it is for the intermingling between men and women. My dear sisters in the West, please be careful of this. Most of us were raised intermingling with other males. We were raised in public school. We were raised playing with our cousins. We were raised playing with boys in the streets. And so one of our biggest challenges coming into Islam is the how we behave among men, and the intermingling between men and women, and the casual conversations between us and our quote-unquote homies from our childhood, meaning our childhood friends. Coming into Islam, we will be very careful that we want to not disrespect anybody, but nowadays, pretty much by so many people becoming Muslims, especially in the inner cities now, it's pretty much understood. Oh, she's a sister now. She's a Muslim now. I'm going to have respect for her. So at this point, these men themselves even know that they want to be careful about conversing with you on a casual level. A lot of these conversations are began by women themselves. So we just want to be careful about the casual conversing between men and women, and so forth. We really want to be careful about that. And then another point is the point that he made about the jewelry. Going out wearing provocatively, wearing beautiful clothes and jewelry. So we have a trend now that is so disheartening, because at one time we were establishing proper hijab, especially in the city where I'm living. The hijab was pretty much, we moved away from the clothing that were taught to the Muslim women from years ago, the strange ideas of clothing, and we actually moved into wide, even black overgarments. But we have a new trend now where we want to dress this black overgarment up. Now we have women now who are wearing the black overgarment of various kinds, but now we want to put sleeveless vest over them, or what you call this duster thing of different various colors and patterns over the black outer garment. And then we also have the women who are wearing bold jewelry over top of their overgarments and over top of their khimars and such things. Be careful, because again, this becomes tabarruj now. We are now dressing up the overgarment. The overgarment sent down by Allah Ta'ala in the Quran is perfect the way it is. Don't listen to the whispers of Iblis where we need to perfect it more. We need to dress it up. We need to jazz it up. Be careful, sisters, because this is no more than the promptings of Iblis, who is tempting us now into tabarruj in another kind of way. So now we move to ruling number 6. Shaykh Fawzan said, women going to Eid Salah. Atiyah, may Allah be pleased with her, said, the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salam, ordered the elderly women, the menstruating women, and the young virgins who normally stay indoors to attend the prayer for Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. As for the menstruating women, they were to distance themselves from the Salah and other narrations, the place of prayer. And they were to attend the festivities and the prayers of the Muslims. This was narrated by the 6 scholars of Hadith. The Shaykh went on to say that Imam Shawkani stated, this Hadith and others with the same meaning prove the legality of women attending the congregational prayers on the 2 Eids, without any distinction between virgins or non-virgins, young or old women, those in their menstrual periods, and others, as long as she is not in her iddah, her post-divorce period of seclusion, or that by going out she will cause fitna, or she has some other excuse. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah stated in Majmu' al-Fatawa, so he, alayhi salam, informed the believing women that praying in their homes was better for them than attending Jum'ah prayers and congregational prayers, except the Eid prayers, which he has ordered them to attend. He ordered them to attend the Eid prayers, and Allah knows best, for the following reasons. It occurs twice in a year, so it is acceptable, unlike Jum'ah and the congregational prayers. There is no substitute for this prayer, unlike Jum'ah and the congregational prayers, as she can pray Dhuhr in her house and is considered her Jum'ah prayer. It usually involves going out to an open place or to some other such place to make remembrance of Allah, and is therefore similar to Hajj in certain aspects. And for this reason, the greater of the two Eids is in the Hajj season in accordance with the pilgrimage of the pilgrims. The Shafi'i madhab has placed a condition on the type of women who are allowed to go to Eid prayer. They must not be outstanding in social status. Imam an-Nawawi stated in al-Majmu'. Shafi'i and his companions said, it is mustahab for the women who are not of an outstanding social status to attend the Eid prayer. And as for those who have such a status, their presence is disliked. And if they go out, it is mustahab for them to wear their casual clothes and not wear their best clothes. And it is mustahab for them to wash themselves with water, and it is disliked for them to use perfume. All these rulings apply to old women who do not tempt desires. Again, to old women who do not tempt desires and others like them. And as for young, beautiful women and those who tempt desires, it is disliked for them to be present at the prayer, as their presence increases the danger of them causing fitna or being subject to it. If it is said, this is not in accordance with the hadith of Atiyah previously mentioned, we reply, it has been reported in Sahih Muslim and Bukhari that Aisha radiallahu anha said, had the Messenger of Allah alayhi salam witnessed what the women have done of innovation, he would have forbidden them as the women of Bani Israel were forbidden. And also because the types of fitna and causes of evil in these times are numerous, unlike the first age of the Muslims, and Allah knows best. Shaykh Fawzan said, I say, in our time the situation is worse. Imam Ibn Jawzi, rahimahullah, stated in his book, Kitab Ahkam an-Nisa, I say that we have made clear that it is permissible for women to go out. However, if it is feared that there will be fitna on their part or because of them, then it is better that they are prohibited from going out. Because the men and the women of the first generation of the Muslims were not like the men and the women of this generation. Meaning, the first generation of the Muslims were very religious. And from these extracts, the Muslim sister should be aware of her attendance of the Eid prayer is permitted Islamically on the condition that she adheres to the religious guidelines and principles of decency, and that by attending she has the intention of coming closer to Allah and joining the Muslims in their prayers and manifesting the rights of Islam, and not to exhibit her beauty or to expose herself to fitna. So sisters, from these two chapters, chapter 4 and chapter 5 of rulings pertaining to Muslim women, Shaykh Fawzan, may Allah preserve him, has given us a lot of great advice. And I do want to warn our younger sisters to be careful, not to take this as some kind of judgment against you. And be careful of the verse in the Quran where Allah says of the hypocrites that they say that every cry is against them. Don't take it personally, but do take it to heart what is being mentioned to you, so that you in fact do strive for that what you are here for, and that is to establish your home in the best place in the hereafter, meaning paradise. We want to strive for paradise. Keep your eye on the goal and know the why that you are doing what you do. If we understand why it is that we are adhering to the dress code of Islam, if we understand why it is that we even offer the 5 daily prayers each day, if we understand why we follow any of the rulings of Islam, then it will become easy for us. Understand your why. Pay attention to that and don't follow the crowd. It's so easy to get caught up in the crowd, especially as a young person. Instagram is such a terrible trap. It has a lot of benefits. It does indeed. But for the young Muslims who are not grounded, and even for those who are grounded, it serves as a challenge when we are on the Instagram seeing the new hijabis, the young women who have the great followings of thousands and thousands of young women who are looking up to them as mentors. To these sisters, I advise you, be careful. You're carrying 20,000. You're bragging 60,000 followers. You're smiling and grinning with lipstick on your lips on YouTube. Be careful, because you are leading these young women into a path that is very, very dangerous. And on Yom Al-Qiyamah, you don't want these women standing in your face. Believe me, you don't want these young women standing in your face, accusing you of misleading them away from the proper hijab. So with that stated, I thank everyone who tuned in to listen to this program and who continue to follow our programs. I'm so grateful for you all, and especially for those who are sharing these programs and the recordings of the programs, because it increases all of our reward. It increases our administration at Islam Life Radio. It increases the reward of all of those who are making this possible. It increases my reward, and I also say that it increases the reward of my husband, who allows me to participate and to and do these weekly programs. So I ask Allah to reward him for even allowing this to happen. If I've stated anything in this program that is incorrect, then certainly it's from myself and Shaitan, and I ask Allah for forgiveness for that. And with that sincerely stated, dear sisters, if you found anything that's objectionable or incorrect, please bring it to my attention. Contact me, Islam Life Radio, through the station itself or my Facebook page. Contact me and correct me. I look forward to that. I actually want you to do that, because I don't want to stand before Allah knowing that I have misled people with anything that I have said in any way. And I ask Allah's protection from that. Ameen. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Have you ever thought about what it takes to know the ledge? People say, know the ledge. What does that exactly mean? Well, let me see if I can sum it up for you in a short poem. Now is the time to show greatness and uplift. With knowledge and wisdom, we share the ultimate gift. We recognize our Creator, who provides and sustains us, who gives our life balance and constantly maintains us. Our broadcast to the people is molded by truth. For the men and the women, and especially the youth, we reach out to those from all walks of life, no matter where you come from and no matter the type. Our goal is quite simple, and that's education and unity. With a smile and the salams, we embrace our community. There is no secret to success, just a desire to learn, because the blessings of Allah is what we seek to earn. So lend us an ear and bring an open mind, and be cautious, not careless, and be aware of the times. All it takes is one slip if you're living on life's edge, and unfortunately some fall because they don't know the ledge.